Hello everybody, and welcome to Party Center Software's webinar on how to cultivate great staff for your facility. Thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate your time this afternoon, and hopefully everybody's going to get a lot of good stuff out of it. So a little bit more about me for those of you that I've not worked with in my various capacities in the past. My name is, again, Armando Lanuti. I've been in the entertainment industry for quite a while. I ran a center that had laser tag in the Indianapolis area for quite a while, as well as worked with the International Laser Tag Association. I've done quite a bit of training with facilities on operations. That's kind of what I would consider my specialty is dealing with staff in the operations in an entertainment facility. I've also worked at Creative Works, was in charge of their sales, helping facilities build laser tag, mazes, all sorts of themed attractions, mini golfs, those kind of things for several years. Probably have had my hands in about 150 projects or so in quite a few different necks of the woods, so to speak. So my background's a little bit unique in the industry because I've been on your side of the fence. I've been in the operations. I've seen what a Saturday can be like when you have 25, 30 birthday parties potentially all happening at once, and the chaos that can create. And so I try and share my experiences, good or bad, with everybody, and hopefully we can all improve upon our own facilities in doing so. So I want to talk about what makes a successful facility. And first of all, it's word of mouth. We're a very unique industry as a whole in that we have a birthday party come in, they have 20 kids, and basically it's an audition for those other 19 kids to try and earn their business, right? It's basically a live action commercial. We want to make sure that they have a good time, that Johnny goes home to his mom and says, oh my gosh, this is the most fun I've ever had, so that Johnny wants to have his birthday party there. And part of that is creating a memorable experience, and obviously we want to create a positive one, but that's what we want. We want to create that one memory, or two memories at that visit where they just go, man, do you remember that time I came around that corner and I shot you, Johnny, and oh my gosh, and then you got me back later, and or oh my God, do you remember the jackpot I got off a big bass wheel? You want those kind of experiences, and you want to make sure that they don't have any negative ones that erase that, and you want to make sure that mom has those kind of experiences as well, that she doesn't have to worry about anything. She can kind of come in, kick back, relax. She's not having to worry about the mess the kids are making, cutting cake, cutting pizzas. Your staff is taking care of all those kinds of things for them. And obviously there's that cliche, right? Everybody likes to talk about we want to give good customer service. And obviously we all want to do that. We just want to make sure that you're not giving it lip service, that you're actually walking through the process and in providing a real good experience for your customers. And so, in my opinion, all of that actually comes back to your employees. I believe on top of your attractions, obviously you want to make sure that you have a nice venue and a place that people want to come to. But at the end of the day, I think it's your employees that make the difference between a A+ facility and a B- facility. And that can mean a lot of money to your bottom line on, which side of that spectrum you fall on. And in my mind, you then have to do something that most people don't do. You can't just expect an employee to come in and know what they want to do and know how to perform their duties. You've got to train them. And you've got to do what I believe is create this culture where everything just comes natural. You don't want to have to ask an employee to pick up that piece of trash that they just walked past on the ground, to push in the chairs, to change the trash bin because it's full, to cover that shift, to see mom walking around, with trying to get through the door with a cake in her hand or take presents out to the car. You want that employee to automatically jump to and want to help and have that be an instinct in them and not something that you have to provide, your thumb over them. If you have to put your thumb on your employee to do those kinds of basic things, then you've got the wrong employee or you've got the wrong processes in place to have that employee work successfully. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to make more money. So along with my thinking, obviously, you have this preconceived idea when you're operating your facility and you see things that work, and you try and, research and, am I just getting lucky, or is there some actual, data that backs up my thought process, kind of that scientific theory kind of a thing. And a great book that I recommend all of you go out and see if you can pick up. It's really cheap on like Amazon if you can still get it on there. A couple of years ago, called Make More Money by Making Your Employees Happy. It's a short read, easy read. Basically, the gist of this book was that if you have your employees' interests in mind, they are going to reciprocate for you. They're going to take care of you and your business. And then they packed that up with some data. So they looked at the, Fortune's 100 best companies to work for compared to the rest of the stock market, and they looked at the gains over, I believe it was a 5-year period, and it was a 3-to-1 gain difference between the companies that people wanted to work for versus the rest of the market on average. And that is just a huge arbitrary, regardless of the industry you're in, regardless of what widget you're selling or service you're providing, the places that are considered the best to work for made more money, hands down. So our goal is to try and get you to be one of those companies that can make some more money at your facility because your employees are having a good time and they're happy at your facility. So I always talk about paying more, and I'm going to cover that a little bit later with some math, and I don't really mean pay more. So you got to realize that it's not just about the money. Here's one of the things that a lot of people kind of get in this rut with, and they get caught running their business, being in their business, working in their business, not on their business, and the day-to-day and running from fire to fire. And what they don't do is they don't stop and take a moment and, give a good attaboy. Say, hey, good job. Thank you for staying late. Thank you for going that extra mile. Take that moment and give that appreciation to your employees, even if it's just a word, gift card, something, some token of appreciation, I think will go a long way. And keep your promises. If you say, hey, we're going to do this, you need to make sure that you're willing to do it. If you're constantly breaking promises that you're keeping to your employees, you're going to find that they don't believe you anymore, and it goes beyond just what you say. They stop believing in you as well. Another thing that happens quite often in our industry is we don't communicate well. And part of that boils down to the fact that, hey, we only have employees typically between 16 and 25 years old, right? Because they're coming in, they're working as a high school or college student, they're working those 20 hours a week, give or take, and we don't pay attention to them because, we're an older adult and we just don't feel that they have value, and that's a big mistake. So one thing I want everybody to be able to work on at their facility is to listen, and something that Walt Disney actually coined as intentional listening. And the 4 key pieces that he felt that kind of made intentional listening what it is were, first, you just have to listen with purpose. Actually be in the moment. Don't be distracted, which kind of goes with that last piece, to make sure that you're focusing. Stop playing on your phone for a minute. Stop trying to read email at the same time. Be in the moment. Be a part of that conversation. Also, make sure that you're listening to understand and not to evaluate. So human nature, the moment somebody starts to give an opinion, we want to start trying to justify and react to that opinion, as opposed to actually taking a step back, taking our biases out of it, and evaluating, and we want to evaluate. And instead, we need to just try and understand, where's this person coming from? Why are they saying what they're saying? What is their viewpoint, and why do they have that viewpoint? And part of that means that you also need to exercise emotional control. You need to not have that gut shot reaction. If you have an employee and they come up and they have something negative to point out, whether it's about the business or you or management or the job in general, make sure that your initial reaction isn't just to brush them off. Again, try and understand, why are they saying these things, and not have that gut shot reaction. So his favorite quote, or his famous quote that kind of ties into intentional listening, is, When a leader intentionally listens, new ideas are brought to life. And when you have all these bright young kids working for you, they may see things differently. And remember, they're closer to your target demographic than you typically are. And they will bring a viewpoint to your business that you may not be having because you're not living their life. So if they have an opinion, I'd recommend making sure you listen to it. It's not to say that they all have great opinions, don't get me wrong, but make sure that you take a moment and evaluate it and understand what it is before you brush it off. So what do you do to get this great staff and have this intentional listening? The first step is you want to hire the right people. And the better term, I believe, is selection, especially as we talk about how I recommend doing your hiring process. Selection is definitely going to be a better term and not just hiring. The second thing is that it comes down to training. So you bring these new cast members in, and they need to be trained. They need to be shown what to do, what your expectations are, and you need to have reinforcement for that, both positive and negative. Provide a sense of purpose throughout your business. Whether that sense of purpose is, hey, look, we service kids. They do birthday parties at our facility, and this is their one time of the year. You know, you don't know what background this child is coming from, what their life is like. They've been able to have this party here. This is their special day. Your purpose here is to make that day as special as you can. Make them feel like they are the king or the queen, and that this is a day that they're going to remember for hopefully the rest of their lives, and at least for the rest of the year as they look back onto the fond memories that they have and that experience they have at your facility. So to do so, though, you do need to, as you're training your employees, provide very clear standards and expectations. They can't be ambiguous. They can't be, you know, this is for this situation, this is for that situation, and a lot of double standards. You need to have very, very clear standards and expectations. You also need to provide proper technology. That's to support your staff, streamline your staff, and enhance their work. So whether that's things like briefing videos, point-of-sale systems, a management system for your inventory, your scheduling, doing online types of pieces, whatever you can do to make your life easier for yourself as an owner, but also for your management team and your employees that are on the front lines, do so. Because if they're not running into walls and hurdles everywhere else, they're not going to already be frustrated by the time they're actually even dealing with the customer. You want to prevent that from happening. And then there's the special sauce. The special sauce I would call is autonomy. And the key piece here with the autonomy is that a lot of people give it lip service. So what does this mean? Employees who are selected, oriented, and reinforced properly, and who are surrounded by peers of that same caliber, will thrive when given significant autonomy. Otherwise, they'll wither. It's another quote from Walt Disney. It's impossible, literally impossible, to micromanage the hundreds of customer touch points that happen in your facility at any given time. Whether it's at the front counter, it's refilling tickets or tokens or providing game room cards, depending on how your system is set up. Whether that is being able to cut the cake, open presents, interact with them inside your attractions. So many things are happening simultaneous at so many points in your facility, it's impossible for you to try and manage that. And so don't. If you're going to drive yourself crazy doing so. And the big thing here, don't talk about empowerment of your employees and then reward conformity. If an employee takes it upon themselves to go out of their way and do something and takes that initiative, reward them for doing so. Now, if it's not the exact way that you would like to do it, talk with them afterwards and say, hey, look, I'm glad that you did this. You took care of the customer's happy. I appreciate you taking that initiative. The next time when that situation happens, why don't we try this? Or, provide that guidance, and you can even talk about that at your next employee staff meeting or whatnot. But, if they just, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm just, let me go get a manager. How many of you have ever been in a facility where you just want your problem solved? You know, at any aspect of our life, whether it's a restaurant, a retail environment, or other service facility, and you go to an employee with an issue, you want them to be able to solve your problem. You don't want them passing the buck and having to escalate it, and then they're waiting longer and longer, and the longer that time takes, the more upset you get and the more frustrated you get. Don't create that same situation at your own facilities. So the 3 steps here are the hiring, training, and retaining of your employees. So the first step, let's talk about hiring. Obviously, you want to get the right people. So some key pieces here that you should all take note of is, first of all, just be observant. You know, look for those people that stand out. And what I mean by that is, you know, when the employee comes in to, or applicant comes in to apply for the position, what kind of clothes are they wearing? Now, you're an entertainment facility. I'm not expecting them to come in a 3-piece suit. That's silly. Now, believe me, I've had that happen. But do they look clean? Is their hair combed? Are they at least in jeans that don't have a ton of holes in them? You know, does it look like their clothes are clean? Do they smell or not? I mean, as silly as that sounds, we've also had that happen where a guy comes up to, apply, and I can smell him, across 5 feet away. I'm not going to hire you in that situation. Obviously, some of those are easier to be observant about than others, but make sure that you are looking for those little things. Also, trust your gut. At the end of the day, if you have a good feeling or a bad feeling about a person, and that's your initial gut shot reaction, it's often going to be correct. Not always, but it's often going to be correct. I also like to follow the adage of never throw gold to the street. So we're going to talk about, I'm looking to hire one person, or I'm looking to hire 2 people, whatever the case may be. If you have 3 people that are applying for this position and all of them are great, don't let that 3rd person walk out the door. Make sure that you hire them as well. You'll find hours. They'll take hours from one of your employees that's underperforming. Never let a person walk away. Never throw that gold to the street to go to your competitor or other complementary piece up the road, because you never know if that might have been an all-star employee that's going to work for you for years to come. The applications themselves. Make sure that your applications have a very clear job description and demands. A lot of people come to our facilities and they think, oh my gosh, you're an entertainment center. All we do is play all day, right? Obviously, we all know that's not the case. So make sure that as part of your job description, you're very clear. Yes, we're here to have fun and make sure that all of our customers have fun, but the job is very demanding as we deal with a lot of customers. We've got to constantly, keep things clean, taking out trash, wiping things down, keeping things sanitary, etc. You're dealing with all sorts of people. Make sure that your descriptions and demands are part of that actual application. I also require that all of them are filled out on site. I never allow somebody to take it home. There's various reasons for that, some of which are simply, I want to make sure they're the ones that actually are filling it out. That they're not taking it home to mom to fill out or their girlfriend to fill out, or taking 2 hours to fill it out because they have issues. I want to make sure that they can fill it out in the moment, right then and there. And I always look, did they bring their own pen? Or did they have to be asked for a pen? Little things. Remember I said be observant, right? How did they dress? We already talked about a little bit. Grooming we talked about. I also look for eye contact, right? Typically the person, your manager, whether it's a GM, shift manager, whatever, that's going to be taking in those applications, needs to be on the lookout. Does this person look them in the eye? Because at the end of the day, this employee is going to have to deal with their own peers as well as adults on a regular basis if they're not an adult themselves. And even if they are, some adults don't like looking other adults in the eye. But we need them to feel confident in who they are to be able to handle the situations that arise on a daily basis at our facilities. So who do you interview once you've got these applications in? One of the first things I look at is their handwriting. Is it legible? That sounds silly, but they're going to be filling out, questionnaires, surveys with customer information, possibly present lists. They need to have decent handwriting. It also tells you a little bit about the person in that they are a person that took the time to learn how to write in a clean and concise way, and it gives you a little bit of that background. Also, did they complete the full application? One of the questions I always ask at the bottom of my application is, what should I know about you, or why should I hire you? If that spot is ever left empty, that application is immediately thrown to the side. I will never hire somebody that I've given them the opportunity to express why I should hire them or something good about them, and they're supposed to be trying to impress that they really want this job, and they aren't even able to be bothered to completely fill out the application, especially in a golden opportunity like that. They're not worth your time. They're not the right person for your facility. Move on. I also recommend that you always screen these applicants with your current staff members. Show them the applications. Ask them, because they see them on a daily basis, typically at school or in their personal lives, and they're going to potentially be able to give you some insight that you don't have in any other manner. Don't be afraid to hire friends. We're a social environment and an entity by nature, and typically friends have a bond and a relationship that are unlike others. And so having friends where they're going to be willing to cover shifts for each other, go that extra mile, help that person because they are a friend and they do have that personal relationship, and they're going to have a banter and a relationship between themselves that's going to just make your life so much easier. Obviously, you want to still have a good expectation, and you provide that, and as long as you keep a clear line of demarcation on what is okay and what is not, you should have no problems hiring friends. I also look for availability, right? We're busiest Friday through Sunday. So hiring somebody that can't work on Friday or Sunday and can only work Saturday typically isn't going to work out for you very well. You only have a limited number of hours that are available typically during the weekdays because you're simply slower. That's pretty much across the board regardless of the type of facility that you have. So obviously availability needs to be key. I also look for extracurriculars. So are they part of show choir or glee? Are they musicians? Are they in sports? Are they in the student body? Those kind of things. Now, I know I just said availability is key, and a lot of times if they are parts of these types of activities, they will have limited availability during certain seasons. But when you hire somebody that's got that background, you're typically hiring somebody that's used to working in a team environment. They're used to being on stage, so to speak, whether it's physically on stage like in a choir or a glee club, but even with sports, they're used to that pressure of dealing with expectations, and so that's typically going to provide a better quality employee for you. The mindset, again, kind of playing on that Disney kind of concept, is these people are auditioning to be part of the cast. When they come to work, they're on stage, and everybody is part of the performance. That means, and I set this expectation during the hiring process, I don't care if your girlfriend or boyfriend just broke up with you, if your mom grounded you, or if you're in trouble, if your car broke down. From the moment you walk through the door in that uniform, you must have a smile on your face, and you must act like it's the happiest day of your life when it comes to dealing with your customers. And I know it's really hard for us, even in management. Sometimes you got to, man, I just need to get myself out of that funk. But if you set that expectation, you're going to find that it's a lot easier than you would think if that's just part of the culture that you're creating, and it makes a huge difference. I also recommend you do group auditions. With group auditions, you're going to want to set a date and a time. Call applicants that you've screened and said, yep, I want to have this person come in. I only ever leave one message. I never make follow-up calls. If they want to come and be a part of our company, they're going to make that return call, and they're going to show up. If they don't, then, again, it's not worth my time to hunt them down. I've got dozens of people that would like to work in my facility. I also do a little thing called grown-up show and tell. Now, grown-up show and tell is where we ask that each person that's coming to the audition, they have to bring something in to share in front of everybody. We ask them, it should be something that they care about, that's important to them. And you'll get all sorts of things, whether it's a soccer ball because they're a big soccer aficionado, their Boy Scout handbook, or a trophy that they won, or a picture of a lost relative, or something that gives them inspiration. The reason we do this is, think of your own life. Whenever you've interviewed for a position, and whenever you've done interviews for a position, that you're offering out as well, people are going to put on their best face. That's just the nature of the world. They're going to put up a wall. They're going to put up a facade. And if you get them talking about something that they have passion about, and you kind of catch them off guard with this, you're going to see a little bit inside that wall. They're going to let you into that garden, so to speak, and you're going to see who that person really is and get a little bit of a glimpse of that personality that comes out. Because when you start talking about something that you have, a real passion for, you just start going on and on and on, and you get lost in the moment. And that's what you're trying to create in a situation like that. For the group audition, I don't warn them it's a group audition. I just say, hey, we're going to be doing interviews at this date and this time. And if they say they can't come, I'm like, no problem. Try and apply again the next time we're having interviews. That way they show up, and they have no idea when you're like, oh, yeah, I'm here for the interview. Yeah, you're going to be right over there at that table with the other 10 to 20 people. Now, obviously, some of your employees may tip them off, or they may know, or maybe this is their second time through the process. But the reason I do group auditions is it's going to give you an insight that you simply can't get in a one-on-one setting. And that insight is simply due to the fact that we are never going to be in a one-on-one setting in any of our facilities, right? Whether it's a party host dealing with a party of 20 kids, a laser tag marshal providing a briefing for the kids getting ready to play, or trampolines, or paintball, or go-karts, whatever the case may be. They're always going to be dealing with groups. And so I want to see how they interact in a group environment. I always try and include my trusted cast and trainers, right? I'm only one set of eyes, and I'm going to be up there, and I'm going to be talking at various times. And so I need to have additional eyes on that 20 people that are potentially there. I also look to set the stage. And what I mean by that is I will actually look for people that have a natural tendency to pick up that piece of trash that's on the lobby, from a Tootsie Roll wrapper as we walk from one area to another during the interview process. Who's going to intentionally, just, oh, I should pick that up? Who's got that natural tendency? Who pushes in their chairs when we leave the party area and everybody was seated there and we go to move to the briefing room or wherever you may be for the next stage? I also try and be very blunt during my interview process. And it's simply because I don't want there to be any misconception. I want them to know what the expectations are for the position, what we strive for at my facility, and there's no sugarcoating that's needed. You'll typically do your introductions, asking them, tell us a little bit about who you are, why you'd like to, work here. When you have questions, make sure that you're varying which questions. You're not asking the same question over and over and over again. Do one question, once or twice, then skip to another one, and then come back. And also vary the order in which you ask the question, so you're not just going around in a circle around the table. Obviously, you want to try and make sure you get to everybody, but you don't want to put it in a situation where, Timmy, who's the 20th person around, thinks that he's got all that time and he's building up his answer and having to think about his answer. You want to try and get honest answers out of them, so don't let them have all that time to kind of prepare. So make sure you're kind of jumping around a little bit. I also try and do group activities. So any type of icebreakers that you guys have ever done, like the human knot or standing everybody on like a pallet, any types of games like that. I love doing nursery rhymes. It sounds silly, but all right, everybody, on the count of 3, so without any warning, I'll just on the count of 3, everybody, let's start singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Everybody will look at you funny. You just start counting. 1, 2, 3. Row, row, and you go into it. And the people that naturally just start singing are the kinds of people that you're going to want on your staff. The people who are too embarrassed to sing a nursery rhyme are the people that are going to be too embarrassed to sing happy birthday to a group of kids when they have their peers and other people in your party areas. I also like to create a pressure cooker environment. So I'll ask pointed questions as well. Why should I hire you? And I'll ask them that right there in front of everybody. I'll also ask them, okay, Johnny, you've done good. I'm only going to hire 2 people today. Unfortunately, you're number 3. What 2 people took your job? And it's very, very interesting on who they will point out as to the people that they felt did the best during the interview. So let's poll the audience here. Danny's going to go ahead and send out a poll here in just a moment. All right, we'll leave that poll open here for a couple of seconds so everybody can click on that answer. So quite a few of you are interested in possibly doing some group auditions now. 20% of you said you're already doing them. 18% said you're not. 60% of you are going to start seeing if you can integrate them into your facility. So hopefully that'll be some good stuff for you guys to take away. Section number 2, training. So training, everything's going to start with you. The first thing, I've talked about this a couple of points, you got to set high expectations. The second thing on here is you got to treat them like adults. A lot of times you're hiring these employees, like I said, they're 16 to 25 years old. This may or may not be their first job or their second job, and most likely they've been treated like kids. Treat them like adults, and you will find that they will often act like adults. Create accountability, though. I'm a very much so a trust but verify type of personality. I like to have checklists, so I'll create chaining checklists, open and closing checklists, and those kind of things, so there's some accountability if something's not done. Make sure that you're always also willing to explain yourself. Obviously, when we were growing up, our parents would just say, because I said so. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that anymore in this day and age. The kids these days are much more intelligent. They have much more access. I wouldn't necessarily say intelligent, but they have much more access to information. Let's put it that way. And just saying that this is what I said, they're going to want to research it. They're going to want to know if you know what you're talking about. So make sure that you're willing to give some background on why you're giving a certain direction or directive. You're going to remember, or you're always going to be wearing many, many hats. Make sure that you're always willing to delegate certain tasks to those employees and show them that you trust them and their capabilities to perform the duties that you ask them to. So we always set up the probationary checklist, and it's the same adage we follow here at Party Center Software with our customers, and it's one that I follow with my employees as well. I want to teach you to fish. I don't want to give you a fish. I want to feed you for life, so to speak. So when we train you, we're always going through everything hands-on. We have a checklist with, hey, here are the number of times you need to fill tickets, or here are the number of times you need to do this activity or that activity inside your 90-day probation, and a manager or a trainer has to sign off every time that you do those things so that I know that they were done properly. And we make sure that we cross-train everybody. There's certain employees that we maybe have party host more often than not because their personality and capabilities are suited better to that. But I need to know that in a pinch, any one of my employees can go to any one of my positions and not just, wing it, but actually perform and perform well. But again, trust and verify. So make sure you're spot checking. What I'll constantly do, since I ran a laser tag facility, I would just randomly walk up to an employee and I'd say, brief, go. That employee may have been there with me for 5 years. They may have been there for 5 weeks. They have to, in that moment, instantly just start briefing me on how to play laser tag, or giving me my party packages, or talking about safety regulations, or giving some hours or address or directions, whatever the case may be. Anything that's key important information that you expect your employees to know at the drop of a hat, make sure that you're testing that they know it at the drop of a hat. Then we need to talk about, we get these employees in and we get them trained. How do we keep them? How do we limit the turnover? Obviously, we're in an industry that's designed for high turnover, right? The high school kids go off to college. The college kids go off to the real world. Even in that situation, it's going to cost you far less to retain an employee than it is to retrain a brand new one. So we want to make sure that we're doing so. Key pieces to keep an employee around and make them happy is first, just create a sense of ownership. Trust your employees. I can't emphasize this enough. If you don't trust that your employee can do their job when you've given them clear expectations, then you hired the wrong person. You need to go home and you need to fire them tomorrow. Make sure that you have employees you can trust. You need to allow latitude and freedom in the heat of the moment. Remember when I was talking about that autonomy, right? And don't give it lip service. If a parent has an issue, let's say the pizza came out burnt, I want my employee to know that they can just, hey, I can make a brand new pizza, put it through, give it to the customer, take the old pizza, toss it in the trash. They're not paying for it. It was our fault, and I want them to take care of it. Obviously, let the manager know so we can track waste and all those kinds of things, but I want to know that they can take care of that. Now, if I needed them to do something a little bit different, that's where I do that follow-up conversation afterwards. Great, I'm glad you took that initiative. The customer was happy. You took care of that problem. In the future, let's handle it this way. And what you do is during your employee staff meetings, talk about those kind of things that have come up since your last meeting so that you can make that a learning experience for your entire staff, not just that one employee. I also highly recommend doing suggestion boxes, not from your customers, but from your employees. You should have a suggestion box in your break room or employee area where they can make suggestions about ways that they can improve your business, ways that they can, new things that you guys can do or things that you could do differently. I also highly recommend that you do cast reviews. Now, what that means is a lot of facilities, the management team or the owners review the employees or the cast members. How many of you guys, and we're going to ask this poll in a moment, ask your cast members to review you as an owner or a manager? It's a very important thing that I think all of you should do. Yes, you may get that occasional person that's just an idiot, and it'll happen, but you're going to get quite a bit of good, honest feedback, and a lot of those things are typically actionable, and a lot of those things are typically things that you don't even realize you're potentially doing or an impression that you're giving off, and are very easy to change about yourself or your management style. So let's go ahead and let's poll the audience again. So how many of you guys do allow your cast members, your run-of-the-mill employees, to review not just the other cast members, but potentially your management team, your owners, and whatnot? Wow. I'm looking at these results. Only 5% of you currently allow your employees to review your management team. I highly, highly recommend it. So definitely something to consider. I think you'll get some really good feedback from that. So FECs, trampoline parks, laser tags, they're all a very fun and social experience. So you want to teach your employees outlets and give them opportunities to interact. So allow them to play with, if you have a redemption counter, a lot of times you get those kids, they come up to the redemption counter, right, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have 150 tickets, I don't know what to buy, and they feel like they're spending $1 million. They just won the lottery, right? And you're just like, kid, come on, pick your Tootsie Rolls so that you can get on to the next kid. Teach your cast members to interact with the toys and to make suggestions. That kid is looking and he's checking all these things out, and then all of a sudden a splat tomato comes in or something like that, and he's just like, oh my gosh, that's cool. And your employee was smart enough. He had 150 tickets, and that was an item for 150 or less, right? They're trying to make that process interactive, but also speed it up from an efficiency standpoint. Also, birthday songs. We hired a lot of people from the local show choir at our facility, and it was fantastic. We got so many good reviews and so much good business because all of a sudden it was time to sing happy birthday, and 3 guys and a girl or whatever group, they would go over there and they'd start singing happy birthday in a beautiful a cappella, possibly beatboxing off of the table or off of their chest to give it rhythm, and her mouth would just drop, right? The kids are having fun with it, but mom's mouth is just to the floor. You took her by surprise. And those little things, it's creating those memorable experiences. Or we would do heads up, 7-Up as well. So let's say the pizzas are running a little bit late, whether you're getting them from an outside vendor or you're using your own kitchen, they're behind for whatever means. Your party host, they know they've got to make up 3 minutes while the pizza's finished or they're showing up. Have them start playing heads up, 7-Up when they first get back to the party room or the party table. Mom doesn't know that there's any delay. Mom doesn't realize there's anything wrong. She just thinks it's part of the games that they're playing to interact with the kids. Great examples to try and take back and integrate into your parties. Here's another thing. Practice what you preach. A lot of us all sell team building or corporate packages. So make sure you're doing team building for your own employees. This could be things like bi-monthly meetings. We would always do a family potluck. So once a quarter we would do a family potluck. We would provide pizzas and sodas. Everybody else would bring in desserts and side dishes and other meats if they wanted to share. We would get they could bring in their brothers and sisters, basically their immediate family, and then we would put all the video games on free play. We'd do it on a Sunday night after we were already closed, since we closed at 7. So we just do it, from 7 to 9. You know what's never going to happen again if you've got mom coming to a family potluck? Johnny's never going to oversleep an alarm and miss a shift, right? She will make sure his butt is out of bed and on his way to your facility. But it also starts to build that culture and create those relationships. You should also be doing staff outings, sports, softball teams during the spring and summer seasons and those kinds of things. Take them out to dinner. So here's a picture of the staff that we would take out to Vuca de Beppo, right? We do that every so often. So another poll here. I want to ask, how many of you guys do staff training, or team building items for your own staff? Practice what you preach. I want honest answers here, right? How many of us are hypocrites, and I was at one point in time, where we want to sell team building, but we don't actually do team building for our own employees? Definitely something I would consider doing. So we've got various ages. Some do it once per month, as he's showing the results here. Some have never done it, and a couple kind of fall in between there, once per year, once every couple of months. I'd recommend trying to do it about once every quarter if you can. It doesn't have to be something that's hugely expensive. Things like the potluck are really easy to do at your facility, don't really cost you anything to really do, and it creates a great environment for your staff. So let's go on here and talk about that customer experience that we're creating. Remember, you want to listen to your employees. We talked about that intentional listening at the very beginning. Hire for attitude, not aptitude. So for any of you sports junkies out there, a great analogy I like to talk about is a wide receiver. We've got the NFL Combine coming up, right? I cannot teach a wide receiver really to run with 4.4 speed in the 40-yard dash. I can teach them how to run a post route. I can teach them how to run an option route, but I can't teach speed. That's a skill that's typically innate. Obviously, they can work their craft, but some things it just comes easier. Same thing with the customer service, right? Somebody that has the right attitude, the right personality is something you can't teach. So look for that. I can teach them what our packages are. I can teach them how to do a birthday party. I can't teach them to just be a nice person. That kind of comes naturally. So make sure you're hiring for that attitude. Give people a purpose, not just rules and regulations. And make sure that you're always tapping into your employees' creativity. It's going to make a huge difference in the packages and the experiences that your employees are going to create for your facility and your customers. Also, make work interesting and challenging. That's one of the other benefits of cross-training everybody, is your employees can bounce from different position to different position. Things don't get as monotonous. I also recommend getting rid of the bullies and make sure that you're not one yourself. So if you have a bad apple, don't keep them. Fire them, because that bad apple will poison the entire staff. Do not let that happen. I'm sure every one of us has had to deal with that at one point or another. Another thing that's real simple and easy and can kind of build that rapport, bring in food. Not all the time, but hey, you guys have a busy Saturday, go to Dunkin' Donuts and bring in a couple dozen donuts. Cost you $10, $15. But now on that Saturday morning, your staff has a donut, and they feel that was brought in for them, and you're thinking of them, or brownies if it's like an afternoon thing, something along those lines. Cookies, real easy, inexpensive, simple to do. You can make it home, whatever the case may be. Also, to build some of that rapport, make sure that you give good references to your employees. It gets around. So if your employee is going off to college and they ask you for a letter of recommendation, provide it. If they're getting that first job and they would like to have you as a reference or would like a reference letter, provide it. Obviously, you want to be honest in those things, but if you're willing to go that extra mile, all the other employees, they talk. They hear about these things. They know about these things. I know with social media, it's a hot topic these days. Don't be a stalker. Let your employees have their personal life. If you're really afraid about something they may be posting, you kind of have to think of yourself, or think to yourself a couple things. The first question that you should have, when you're thinking about that is, what could be so bad that they're posting it on social media, and why is there something so horrible that making it public will damage the business? Why is that there in the first place? What could they be saying that's so bad? And two, will my response, whether it's on social media or in person, generate more bad press than the original post did in the first place? We've all seen that in, if you're watching, pop culture these days, where sometimes it's not just the initial post or the tweet or whatnot that goes out. It's all the reaction in the answering and the bickering that goes back and forth that all of a sudden can take something very small and make it very large, and you want to avoid that. Another big thing that I always recommend owners do, solve problems directly. Don't beat around the bush. Don't talk about how you don't like this employee or what they're doing to other employees. If you have an issue, talk to that employee directly and solve that issue directly. I also recommend finding employees with things like the help wanted or job boards. Help wanted or job boards are something that I use with in my facilities. What I'll do is I'll put a big bulletin board up, and it'll have tasks that need to get completed. Detail clean inside the games, clean the windowsills, detail clean the bathrooms. Anything that they do, they can then get signed off by a manager, and then they can put that task into a bucket, and then we would draw winners. And then we can give out prizes, whether it's a trade out or from a vendor, something cool that you give, or like a gift card or something along those lines, free credit to use at at the facility for food or whatnot. That way you're not giving something out every single time something's done, but they realize that there are rewards that are happening. So just be consistent on it. It's a really easy way to make sure that, things can be taken care of. And you'll find that your employees start to look for things that can be done that aren't even on your job board. All of a sudden they notice something that's really dirty that maybe you didn't think of, and they come up and they say, hey, if I take care of that and get that all clean and spick and span, can I go ahead and get that signed off and put it into the drawing? It's really amazing. So the big question, one of the last sections here, how much should I pay these new employees? So environment and money will attract quality. You need to know your competition, which is not just other FECs, but fast food, pizza places, anything that the same demographic would be working at. And it's a lot easier than I think you would think. Everyone's paid minimum wage. But we use a combination bonus system, both tip bonuses and sales bonuses. With that, we also set up certification and benchmark tests for them to show their aptitude at certain things. And if they're a trainer, we give them a bump to their pay as well. So that first thing there, the tip bonus, everybody contributes to a party or an event. So I don't feel that the party host should get the entire tip. I believe it should be split by everybody, whether it's the manager that originally took that reservation, to the people that cooked the food, to the person that handled the 25 kids at redemption, to the front counter person that paid out the mom and made sure everything was good, and then obviously the party coach. It's no different than if I go to a nice steakhouse and I order a filet and it comes out undercooked or overcooked, or my order comes out wrong. Half the time that host or that server, or most of the time that server, has nothing to do with that coming out incorrect. It came out of the kitchen. But you tip that server based on how that came out of the kitchen. Same concept here. I want to prevent that from happening. It incentivizes everybody, but it's not costing you anything to have this tip bonus. So, for example, if you did 30 parties a week, and I just try to use easy round numbers to make the math simple, and $15 was the average tip per event, and we had 300 man-hours, let's say, worked in that week across all my employees, at $450 in tips that came in, everybody just got a $1.50 an hour raise. With the tip bonus, it didn't cost you anything. Nothing came out of your pocket, but now instead of making $7.25 an hour or $8 an hour, depending on where you're at in the country and what your minimum wage is, all of a sudden they're making $8.50, $9 an hour. You just beat out all the fast food restaurants for quality employees. And at my facility, it wasn't uncommon. Sorry, I skipped past that. Let me see if it'll let me go back. There we go. It was not uncommon to see a tip bonus in the $3 range. So all of a sudden, that employee is now making $10+ an hour. Then we also would do a sales bonus. That sales bonus would be a bonus benchmark. So we'd say we have to get across a certain threshold of sales for the week before everybody would be eligible for this. And then we would give a small percentage of this. This could then also be utilized as a positive negative reinforcement for your employees. If you always come in on time, if you're always in your uniform and you're always doing your job, and we don't catch you on your cell phone, those kind of things, you're eligible for the sales bonus. If you have your bonus taken away, it's typically because we caught you on your cell phone, texting or calling somebody, or Snapchatting, whatever the case may be, or you came in and you didn't wear your belt, or your shirt's not tucked in, or whatever the case may be. We would then take their bonus for that. Or if they're 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, they'd lose their bonus. Again, the first time you take $30, $40 out of a kid's pocket, they're not going to play on their cell phone anymore. And if they continually do it, you should have let them go, and they were the wrong person to be there anyways. So again, basic math, let's say you have to do $10,000 in a week to have a sales bonus. Let's say you do 3% of that sales for the bonus, 300 man-hours work. We now just gave away $300 or $1 an hour. So now that employee, is all of a sudden making $9, $10, $11 an hour. You've beat out anybody else that they could possibly be working for. And the only difference in your bottom line that we just adjusted from minimum wage was $300 for that week, as long as you have the sales to do it. That way, if you have lean weeks, like all of us do sometimes in the summer, especially here in the Midwest, you may have several weeks where there's not a sales bonus, and you're not having to give that out during the times that aren't as healthy, so to speak. We also did the certification and benchmark testing. Basically, there would be written and practical portions where if they pass this test on how to be a party host, how to make certain food items, or how to do other things within the facility, you create these sections in your facility and what the tests are for, they got a quarter raise, right? These employees sometimes aren't worth you. It's not like a corporate world where they should get annual raises. They may only be with you for a year or 2 years or 3 years just because of the nature of our business. They're never going to be there long enough for that to really work in that system. Whereas here, if I have an employee that has gone so far to ensure that they know every little thing about my birthday party packages and how to book a party, I'll give that employee a quarter an hour. Any of you that wouldn't, if you know that that employee knows everything in and out, and these certification tests are not easy. 50 questions, and they have to get a 90% or better. And that's just for the written portion. And then practically, they have to walk us through everything. And if they get it, it only lasts 6 months. And the reason I would say that it only lasts 6 months is because your packages change all the time. Your products potentially change. Your offerings change. Your policies and procedures change. So they have to change and update, so to speak, to keep that raise active. We would just hold the test once a month with a sign-up sheet. They had to be able to do it on that day. And we'd do it on like a Monday or a Tuesday night when we knew we had nothing going on. And then we would have 3 different areas. We had a back-of-the-house test, a food area test, and a front-of-the-house test. And basically, if they were what we called trip certified and they had passed all 3, when it came up for the first one to be renewed, they could actually take a compilation test that was 100 questions long and covered all 3 areas. And again, they still had to get a 90%. As we kind of conclude and wrap this up, I asked the question, is it all worth it? I think it is. Simply put, the overall gist of this presentation is simply take care of your employees, and they're going to take care of you. If you're willing to go that extra step, so will they. Your customer service is going to go up. They're going to cover when you need it, whether it's for people that are sick, last-minute bookings, coming back, when your high school students have prom or homecoming, your college students are going to be like, hey, yeah, I'll come back and make a little bit of extra money to, take back to college with me. And you're going to, at the end of the day, you're going to see your revenues and your profits go up. So I always ask people if they want more valuable info. Like our page on Facebook, we do tips of the week, which are typically generated by our customer base, where they've said, hey, this is what works for me. We've put those out on our Facebook page. I definitely recommend you check that out. We have our blog, which carries all of our old tips of the week. So if you're new and haven't been following on that, I highly recommend you go to our blog. And there's, tips of the week for the past, year or so that we've been doing it that you can start taking, if we can get you a little nugget here and there that you can incorporate into your business, obviously that's a big win for us. And, we're just trying to get back to the community on a lot of these items. We also have the ability for you to download more educational items from our website homepage. On there, if you go to our webpage, we've got the top free, marketing tools right now. ways to fail at online booking that, obviously, and increase your revenue with your online storefront. So if you are a customer, there's some tips to how to improve your software, as well as some things that have nothing to do with our software. Again, we're always trying to help everybody out, because we want you to be successful, because it makes us successful both as a company but also as an industry, and we want to make sure that everybody's healthy. If you want to learn more about our software, and you're not already a customer, we'd love to show you how our software can help your staff. Many of you in here actually are already customers, but if you're not, we'd love to, welcome you to the family as well. If you go to our website, you'll be able to book a demo, and you'll just fill out basic little info about your facility, and then once that comes through, we'll go ahead and call and schedule a time. We'd love to be able to, like I said, welcome you to the family. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, please feel free, type them in. We haven't had too many, or I've been able to kind of cover those as I've been looking at them that have come through. We appreciate your time. We're going to put this webinar up for anybody that wants to be able to show this to other management or other staff. We're going to be sending this out as a recording here later in the week, so look for that in your inbox. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a great day.